Welcome back to the truck house where I've been slowly chipping away at two old Ford crew cab projects for a while now. So you can see I've got this one is cut in half and I have this one sitting here with no frame and a ton of rust. That one's going to be getting the 6.7 Power Stroke frame and interior and everything. And then the other one behind me is going to get this white patina look with a old school full drive setup. Make no mistake, I have no idea what I'm doing. All this stuff in here that looks kind of like a legitimate shop, this is all hopes and dreams at this point. This would be my first time welding on a frame with my welder that I just got this year from Eastwood that I'm really excited about. Spent a bunch of money on it and I've got all the stuff, plasma cutter, everything. I can do MIG, TIG, and stick welding. So I'm pretty prepared to do whatever. I have a cleaned shiny metal spot for my ground right there. So let's see if I can get this done. That looks like crap. Uh-oh. In my last video, I got the Dana 70 out from under my 1971 crew cab long bed F350. This thing has 456 gears in it. And I've got a set of front and rear 410 gears in this thing now. So you can see I've now got the bolts in for the Dana 60 rear end. So a little bit less beefy axle, but still a Dana 60. And then we've got the Dana 44 with the HD outers on it. This is a disc brake setup from like a 1977 dent side four-wheel drive F250. So we got that, and I need to get the transfer case in the frame. So I need to steal this crossmember out of the old highboy frame that I have sitting over here. And anything else that I might need off of it, like the steering shaft and anything with the steering I might want to borrow, and maybe either upgrade or try it out and use that stuff. And I need to get this crossmember out, which you can see in my last video I removed all the rivets from. And then I determined I can't get this thing out of here. I didn't even really think about it. Got the rivets out and was like, wait, this thing's like a precise fit in here and there's no way to get it out of the frame. So I'm gonna try to cut it in half right now without doing any research. I'm just like, this makes the most sense to me. Let me know what y'all think, but I'm gonna cut it in half, take it apart in two pieces, and then reinstall it in the new frame for it. And then once it's like bolted in place and I'm happy with it, I'll weld it back together. So let me know what y'all think of that. I'm just taking this square and a scribe to make a mark right down the center of this cross member. And I'm gonna do that all the way throughout all these surfaces here. And then we're gonna try out just the grinder, a saw with a carbide blade, and a sawzall. And then I might reel the plasma cutter out here too, see if we can try all three out and see what gives us the best cut. All right, up first we're trying out the grinder with a used disc on it, so we'll see how that goes. But I have a feeling this won't be too bad cutting through here. The sawzall will probably be good for this transition here, and then the plasma cutter will be real nice to go through this big area. So that's why I'm going to try out all three, let you know what I think. Alright, so here's a look at our first bit here. Not too bad, it's just throwing a ton of sparks right on the back of my neck. Trying to figure out a good setting for the guard and everything. But let's go ahead and try the sawzall out and see how it goes getting to this transition. I like that a lot better. Let's keep going. It's hard to see where the line is with this blade and the guard on it. So that's the only reason I'm stopping, is so I can see it. But that's doing really good. I think I'm gonna keep going because setting up the plasma cutter is quite a bit of work when I'm outside of the shop. If I could get this in the shop with all my stuff out of the way, that would be my first choice. But see if I can keep making light work of this with the carbide blade. Thanks, TJ, for leaving this blade over here. I'm about to tear it up. Also going to give the blade a second to cool down. As you can see, that's working pretty good. Relatively straight line too. Trying to hammer this in to this groove where it normally pinches down on it with the bolt to open it up and try to pull it off. We got this off. Don't know if I need this or not, but this is a four-wheel drive, steering shaft here from this very forward part of the frame to go to the steering wheel. My trucks have all been two-wheel drive, all my old Fords, so they have a rag joint and a shorter shaft because the steering is farther back behind the engine mount. So I might need this to kind of extend whatever I have to reach that. So I was thinking this could be repurposed for that. Still has a halfway decent U-joint in it that's greasable, so maybe it's salvageable. We'll see. I believe that's everything I need off this four-wheel drive highboy frame. I now have the front and rear axles, leaf springs. Let's see, I have the shock mounts front and rear, the transfer case Crossmember I just took out of there, and that drive shaft link. Let me know if y'all can think of anything else that you would steal off of this thing and keep, because I'm now posting this frame for sale. Now I don't expect to get much for it in this condition, but it is, still a straight frame that could be made four-wheel drive again pretty easily. So with that, I'm gonna get to work on the next step here, which is clearing this trailer out, cutting my grass. It's getting crazy. I've been weed whacking it. My weed whacker's been finicky. I finally got that thing going again. The little tiny screen on the primer bulb side of the fuel got clogged up after I put some bad gas in it. Here's the old weed whacker over here, but gonna try to get that going now that I fixed that up again, and do some weed whacking, mowing, all that. And when it rains, it pours. The gas I put in that weed whacker is the same I put in my kid's four-wheeler, and it ruined the carb on it too, so I've got it all taken apart, the carbs off, as well as the intake, because then the carb got stuck to the intake, the bolt stripped. So got that over here. So a few little projects here and there, and once I get this all cleared out, have some room to get my trucks out, I'm gonna get my wife's car done. Needs an oil change and a front strut and hub and everything on the side I didn't replace yet on her Cadillac Escalade SUV. So a lot of just maintenance to get done now that I've gotten all this stuff stripped off this truck. That also brings me back to the Dana 60 rear end I just put on this truck. Has a locked up rear drum brake, so I gotta loosen that up so I can roll this thing around. So y'all stay tuned. I think I've got everything I want off this trailer, and I'm about to move it with the Bronco. And while I was at it, I went ahead and replaced my broken tail lights, and as you can see, those are working. I got these from Harbor Freight, and they are working a treat. Got the flashers on and the headlights on. That's what that's looking like, so should be good to go there. Let's see, do we have a license plate light? Should be a little white light right there. Yep, sure do. All right, good to go. So that's one thing fixed there. Still got a lot of work to do on the trailer. After getting the trailer out of the way, you can see I've rearranged all my trucks. So I got the two bump sides that were right here outside, and my wife's Escalade in here. This is the grocery getter. We bought this thing, it's a 2016 with 100,000 miles, which was pretty reasonably priced. I'm pretty excited about this thing. It's good value for the used market. You get a new one, they're super expensive. With this one, we've put 30,000 miles on it. Been keeping up with the maintenance on it. And I just did the struts upper and lower control arms, and hubs. Because of it having 130,000 miles on it, we started to get some noises we didn't like, so I went ahead and replaced pretty much the whole front end. Brakes still look good, haven't touched those, or the CV axles or the tie rods. Everything else has been replaced, but all that stuff seemed good. So if you want to check any of that out, I have some stories I've put on my Grappaholics Instagram, so be sure to stay tuned for anything in between that you might want to see there on my Instagram story. While I had it in here on the lift, went ahead and changed the oil. I'm using the Mobil 1 0W20. Supposed to be good for a 20,000 mile oil change. I'm curious what y'all are doing for these newer cars with synthetic oil. Calls for 20,000 miles on the oil. The car itself calls for a little bit more often than that. I've been doing it between 5,000 and 10,000 miles. I was a little bit darker here at 10,000 miles. So what do y'all recommend on full synthetic with the 6.2s or whatever you're driving? What's your oil change interval? Very curious. Also, what kind of oil are y'all using? The Mobil 1 is recommended when you Google it for this thing, GM approved, but I've tried a few different oil types out over the years, and I haven't really stuck with one yet. So I'm looking for a suggestion on a good oil company to stick with, and I'll maybe do some promotions with, but just to be consistent. I like to be consistent when I can. I always get gas from the same place. Been using Wawa lately because there's a new one in town. It's got fresh pumps and everything, and it's just been kind of convenient. So that's my little rant about that. So I'm gonna get this thing out, rearrange all my trucks, try to put them back in here, and with that we'll get some more progress made. Doing this regular maintenance stuff has to happen too, as well as full-time job in the Coast Guard and hanging out with the family, going on trips. So slow progress, as you can see, after working on weekends, but we are chipping away at it. So let me get this thing out of here, and y'all stay tuned, see what we can get into next. Want to say I'm really digging the new stance with the Highboy suspension. It's sitting up a little bit higher. I really like it. It's got a lift block in the back from the Highboy. That was the way it was done from the factory. So this is factory Highboy, which means four-wheel drive from like 67 to 70 something with the divorce transfer case, and they lifted them from the factory to fit the drive shafts and everything because the way they had the transfer case way in the middle in the back. So this thing's sitting up higher. I like how that looks. And then my little project I could do in the meantime I want to show you is this is the only rust I've found in the frame that's actually bad. So obviously you have like scaly surface rust on everything. There's my old exhaust and all that, but the frame is pretty solid except for right here, which this is a replaceable part. I could rob it off another frame, but just to make sure everything sits all nicely and the way it was meant to, I'd rather just fix this. So my plan is to grind this out, take a belt sander or something, just kind of get this all down to get rid of all this thin metal. And then in this spot, the part of the cab mount, I think it might have went this way, I can't remember exactly, but the cab bushing that this thing rides on would be right here. I think that would be a nice repair. So my plan is to get rid of all the rust and then kind of make this fit just perfectly in there, weld that in, and then I can go back and sandblast it when I do the frame and paint it and everything will be nice. Now, this hole is smaller than what's intended to be there, so I could enlarge the hole or just scrap this whole idea and get something different, but I think this is a really good fit for this, and as long as I line it up nicely with that, I think I won't have any problems lining the cab up with it. I'll just have to be very precise, which I don't think is a problem. These trucks were kind of thrown together a little sloppily back in the day. Try to make it a little bit cleaner, better door gaps and all that stuff. Make the bed line up with the cab. So hopefully I can do this without affecting the way the truck sits. I want to make sure it's the nice level fit there and not any higher than the other side or lower, because you'd see that in the cab slightly. If it was like a 1/4 of an inch higher on one side, you'd notice it and stuff wouldn't line up right. So I'm gonna try to do that, which I keep seeing it stands out like a sore thumb, this big dent right here. Planning on massaging that out, it'll be gone. But I really like this truck otherwise. This 1967 has a really nice patina on it, old California truck. Has no rust in it really at all. Really stoked on it, and as you can see from the other truck being cut in half, I'll be using the inside of this thing too. So not the best lighting, but the dash is all original 67, nice stuff. I really like how this thing looks. We'll clean it up a little bit and it'll be really cool. Old school setup, and I plan on doing the seats with like a nice distressed leather, make it old school like ranch truck, where I can get in this thing and work it. I can go off-roading, I can go through the woods, I can go on the beach, I can do whatever, I can go to Lowe's, and I'm not worried about scratching it because it's already been scratched. And it's a really cool 1967 camper special. I think this thing's gonna be sweet. So let me get to it, see if I can clean that up and at least fix that, because that needs to be done before I sandblast the frame or get the cab mounted on there anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock it out. Y'all can see I've got pretty close here. I have a little gap around and some of the thinner spots I'm going to fill in with weld. You can see the top is still rusty, but it fits in there pretty nicely. I'm going to check the measurement of the center to the other one. I'm not worried about the top being rusty because that's going to get sandblasted. Got the bottom pretty well cleaned up. I took a night off out here to get some stuff done around the house. Thought we were having a hurricane coming because we're close to the Outer Banks and everybody's been hearing about the hurricane. I cleaned my gutters out, took my umbrella down, it's over there from the back porch, and prepped a bunch of stuff, and we got like a little bit of mist, and that was about it, and it was slightly breezy. So now I'm back out here after that waste of time, but my gutters did need to be cleaned out, so glad I got that done. I've now got this thing up on the lift because I needed a little more room to work in here, and it was kind of in the way. So now I'm going to kind of work under it. I also got my welder set up with the fresh bottle I got recently, and I have that plugged into the 240 outlet over there. It reaches with this setup kind of in the middle. I don't really need the 240 for this welding, but I just kind of like plugging it in to that and make sure I don't trip the breaker. It seems to be happier with that. I know the plasma cutter needs the 240 or else it'll trip it pretty quickly. So glad I got that set up and that will work. I can plasma cut stuff right here too, so feeling good about that. But now I'm gonna get back to this thing. It's pretty clean still, a little bit of surface rust on it from just sitting out here for a couple days, but feeling pretty good about that. And I'm gonna clean it up a little bit more and try to burn that thing in tonight and make a little progress. After meticulously getting all the paint off this thing, I've now put some more paint on it. I just put some primer on the underside here. I thought I had the stuff that said weldable on it, but I don't right now, so this is gonna have to do. But I've made sure to avoid the edges where I'm actually going to weld it in. So I want to do this bottom side so I didn't forget and let that just start rusting. And now I'm going to start to set this in place. I've cleaned this all up with alcohol. I've already checked the measurements and I'm within about 1/8 of an inch to the center of that hole on that side. So I should be good there. I just have some gaps to fill in a little bit. So I'm going to play around with that for a bit and try to weld it in, do a couple little tack welds, and then try to fill it in. Also want to mention, make no mistake, I have no idea what I'm doing. All this stuff in here that looks kind of like a legitimate shop, this is all hopes and dreams at this point. This would be my first time welding on a frame with my welder that I just got this year from Eastwood that I'm really excited about. Spent a bunch of money on it and I've got all the stuff, plasma cutter, everything. I can do MIG, TIG, and stick welding. So I'm pretty prepared to do whatever. I'm going to be MIG welding. So I've got the new argon and CO2 mix bottle here. Don't have to borrow my buddy TJ's anymore. 25 CO2, 75 argon. I've got my pressure set over here. It's at about 20 cubic feet per hour. I looked that up. That's kind of in the range 10 to 25 or something like that. And she's got pressure in it. That's on. So all that stuff's set up. All this reaches over here. I have a cleaned shiny metal spot for my ground right there. So let's see if I can get this done. That looks like crap. Let me check my voltage. Forgot to hit record on that second one, but that looks a lot better than the first one. I had the first one turned up to 23 volts or something like that. This one's at 18. I was thinking because it was the frame I would dial it up a little bit, but that was too hot right there. So I'm gonna stick with 18. I'm happy with how that sounded and looked. So the first little tack weld I did with it at 22 volts on my voltage over there came out super hot, did not look right at all, very splattery. I turned it down to 18 volts where I had it before for some sheet metal welding, and it looks a lot better now. So I'm gonna try to finish this up. I'm gonna have my work cut out for me to fill in these gaps, but gonna try to get this thing in. It's pretty solid already just from that. So feeling good about that, and I don't have a massive hole in here anymore. Now I just need to make it structurally sound. Uh-oh. Idiot. I got way too far away. That one I was standing up instead of sitting down, and I started to like stand up more and didn't even realize I was getting farther and farther away. That one's got a stalactite. I don't know about pretty, but I don't think that's going anywhere at least. What do y'all think? I feel like it's halfway decent. I know some of it dripped through to the bottom. So the bottom side doesn't look great. I'm gonna clean this up. You'll never really see this when the truck's done, but I'd like it to look better. So I'm going to use the grinder and make it look like I know what I'm doing, because right now this is pretty sloppy, but I feel good about the penetration and everything, and that's definitely solid. And I feel good mounting the cab to that. Here's how it's looking after the grinder. Take a little paint and it'll look halfway decent. It's got a little bit of rough edge where the weld meets the existing frame here. And I could clean that up probably by welding more and smoothing it out. But because I'm going to sandblast and paint this, I feel like it's going to look decent when it's done anyway. Not too worried about it aesthetically, and I feel like it's pretty solid. So let me know what y'all think. Would you go back and fill that in more to make it more of a smooth transition, or what? I don't really want to take any more material off, and I feel like it looks pretty decent for something you'll never see. Let's see, did a grinder and paint make me the welder I ain't? You tell me. I think it looks decent for a cab mount. You know, it's gonna have a bushing on top of it. You won't really be able to see it. The underside you might see when you jack it up, so I'll try to clean that up a little bit more. This is all gonna get sandblasted and painted black, but I'm feeling good about the structural integrity of that now. Let me know what y'all think from what you saw. I mean, she ain't going nowhere, if you ask me. I've been slowly chipping away at 2 old Ford crew cab projects for a while now. I've already done the front and rear axle swap. Still got to figure out steering, and I got to put the motor out of this black truck in the thing. It's a 352 V8 from 1967. Oh, there she is. Not to be confused with a 351. It's an older, like a 360, 390 FE motor. Anyway, I got an old carburetor motor with a manual transmission and a transfer case to put in this thing. But right now I'm trying to figure out what's next. I got a couple questions for y'all before I get back into it. So I've been out of town for a little bit, visiting family in Kentucky. Had a really nice trip up there.
Cocaine, Carolina, how did I get hooked on you? Someone said if I was lucky, I could go back to Kentucky. Lexington was famous for its bluegrass and its hills.
And the next big thing is my birthday. I'm hosting a bunch of people over here at the house. So I got a little bit of cleaning up to do to hang out in here and show off all my junk. But with that, I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next exactly. One thing I do have to do that's coming up, to work on a chief I work with's truck. So he's got a Ram, I think it's a 2016 with the 5.7 liter, and it has bad lifter tick. So he had a leak from getting some work done on it from the dealership, or whoever worked on it, some shop. They put a bad gasket on it, lost a lot of oil. It started to wear on the cam and lifters, and now it's making all kinds of noise. So he was hoping to have me do it because he knows I'm very meticulous and slow moving, as you can see with everything, and he's going to make it worth my while. So we'll talk more about that if that happens, but I want to get that thing in here, work on it, a little side hustle, make a little kind of profit, or at least keep me from spending some money on something I'm already going to buy. So we'll get to that later, but now what am I going to do with this thing before he gets here and after? What's the next move here? So a couple things with that. I have the option of focusing on the steering. So right now, if I had a steering wheel, it wouldn't be connected to anything. The old two-wheel drive stuff is long gone, and I sold it actually. And then the four-wheel drive stuff doesn't really line up or make a lot of sense for this because it is a hydraulic setup that is prone for leaking and is very expensive to rebuild and make it work, and it's not that good to begin with. So I have a couple options with that could be very expensive, and I'm trying to commit to something next. So the other thing I can work on instead of spending money on the steering is spend money on sandblasting and painting this thing. So that could either be me buying a sandblaster kit and maybe a better air compressor, because mine might not be able to do it. I got a Craftsman from Lowe's I've had forever. Does the job for most of my stuff, but I don't know about for sandblasting continuously. Plus I need to do like a filter dryer setup for all that, so a lot to do there. So I can spend money on the frame, spend money on the steering, or a third option is to get it to work on swapping this body onto here, and then I'd have to go back and do the frame later. I haven't wanted to do that because it's a little bit extra work to get the body done and then take it off and go back and do the frame, but that might be where I'm at because I have the body parts I need here. I have the welder, the Eastwood welder. I just got a new bottle for it, and I have a plasma cutter and all that good stuff, and a bunch of stuff to cut up bodies. And you can see I cut these old trucks in half all the time. That's my jam. So I got everything I need to do that. That might be the direction I end up heading because all my money is tied up in Grappaholics.com and this, all this stuff you see here. So my truck money, my budget is separate from the income I make from the Coast Guard. So anything I'm making off of sales from Grappaholics.com kind of goes back into Grappaholics.com. So normally I pay for this stuff with buying and selling trucks, and I don't have any room to do that, so I really need to get these done. So I'm trying to make some progress before I spend any money and end up not being able to restock stuff like our shirts, plates, hats, air fresheners, decals that make some extra money and help keep the lights on in here so I can be out here doing this stuff. So with that, I hope y'all could check out Grappaholics.com. Tell me what you want to see. I've kind of catered it to my Instagram followers. That's my big name, is like 200,000 followers on Instagram, which I'm so thankful for. YouTube is where I have my fun, but I want to hear in the comments what y'all want to see on the website and what y'all would do next. Would you do the cab, the frame, or the steering? I'd really like to know. So that's going to wrap up this video. Really stoked to make a little progress on this. With me currently planning on cutting this nice 67 California truck up as my next step, basically to get this thing on here. I'm really excited to have made this cab mount repair, so now I can actually do that. I want to try to weld the front end of that white truck to this crew cab while it's still on the frame, figure out the alignment and everything, make sure the truck sits right and straight on the frame, then take the frame up and paint this thing. So let me know if y'all think that's a good next move. I'm gonna try to cut this thing up. I'm really putting it off because it's such a nice truck already, but that's why I bought it. I bought it to cut it up and make my dream crew cab work truck, crew cab, long bed, white patina truck to do all my dirty work while I work on my diesel crew cab, short bed, 6.7 power stroke. So we'll see if I can get this thing done. I'll have two 67s. Cannot wait. Let me know what y'all think.